Have you ever felt emotionally drained after constantly responding to others' demands? Carl Jung warned that excessive emotional availability turns you into an emergency button for manipulators. In this video, you'll discover what happens when you stop reacting impulsively, how silence becomes your shield and unavailability your superpower. The moment you withdraw your automatic responses, something profound shifts in your relationships. But first, let's explore why your reactions might be fueling others' control over you. Most people don't realize how much energy they waste through automatic responses. Each time you react predictably, you give others invisible leverage. Jung observed that emotional patterns become psychological prisons over time. The more available you are, the more others expect that availability. Then, when you withdraw, even slightly, they react strongly, not because you've changed, but because their control is threatened. This is the paradox. Your kindness becomes a vulnerability unless you consciously choose when to engage. Have you noticed how your constant availability shapes how others treat you? When you're always ready to respond, always quick to fix problems, you create a pattern that others learn to exploit. Research shows predictable people become easy targets for manipulation precisely because their reactions can be anticipated. The colleague who knows you'll step in when they slack off. The partner who expects your apology regardless of who's wrong. These dynamics form because you've trained people how to treat you through your consistency. Studies reveal manipulators unconsciously track behavioral patterns like scientists studying lab animals. They notice that texting "I miss you" at midnight always gets a response. They learn mentioning hardship makes you offer help. Your predictability gives them a roadmap to your energy reserves. It's not always conscious malice, sometimes just human nature exploiting available resources. But the effect remains the same. Your emotional labor becomes expected rather than appreciated. Consider how often you initiate contact after conflicts. How quickly you smooth things over when tension arises. Each time you do this, you reinforce the pattern. University of Michigan research found people who consistently apologize first are 73% more likely to report feeling emotionally drained in relationships. Your predictable behavior becomes a leash others can pull whenever they need something from you. The most dangerous part. This cycle convinces you such treatment is normal. You start believing you must be available to have value, that relationships require this constant emotional labor. But Jung observed the opposite. Your greatest power emerges when you step outside these conditioned responses. The moment you stop performing your expected role, the entire dynamic shatters. Silence disrupts these patterns most effectively because it provides no data for manipulation. Where there was predictable reaction, suddenly there's empty space. The panicked "Are you mad at me?" texts start coming because your silence breaks their behavioral algorithm. They can no longer anticipate. Carl Jung described the psyche as an energy system where every thought and action consumes precious resources. This isn't about physical fatigues, about how emotional reactions drain your mental reserves. Picture your attention as currency. Each time you engage in pointless arguments or rush to soothe someone's manufactured crisis, you're spending limited funds on transactions that leave you bankrupt. The person who bets you into defending yourself isn't seeking truth, they're extracting your energy through conflict. Modern psychology confirms what Jung observed. Arguments where no real resolution is possible act like psychological slot machines. You keep feeding coins of attention into them, hoping for the jackpot of being understood, but the mechanism is rigged to always favor the house. Studies on energy depletion show that just 20 minutes of fruitless debate can impair decision-making abilities for hours afterward. Your brain literally can't distinguish between defending your boundaries in a meaningful discussion and being drawn into someone else's drama cycle. Both consume identical neural pathways. Consider how often you've explained yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Notice how they return with the same accusations weeks later as if the conversation never happened. These aren't exchanges, they're energy transfers. The moment you recognize this dynamic, you spot it everywhere. The coworker who just needs to vent daily. The relative who fishes for reassurance about the same insecurities. The online stranger demanding you justify your perspective. None want solutions, they want reactors. Jung emphasized that conscious non-reaction creates space for actual psychological work. When you abstain from automatic engagement, something interesting happens. First, the noisemakers escalate their messages, get longer, their tones more urgent. This isn't because you've upset them, but because their usual energy source has gone offline. Then, when the escalation fails, they either withdraw or adjust. Either outcome benefits you. Boston University research on workplace dynamics found employees who delayed responding to non-urgent communications reported 23% less stress while maintaining equal productivity. Their secret: treating attention like investment capital. Silence isn't passive, it's strategic energy banking. Those extra mental resources compound interest in unexpected ways. With preserved energy, you notice manipulative patterns earlier. You withstand pressure better. Most importantly, you regain the capacity to choose where your attention goes. This is the hidden economy. Jung understood. Every unspoken word is a deposit into your psychological savings account. The people who deserve withdrawals will respect your balance. Manipulators operate like emotional slot machines. They keep pulling your lever because they know it pays out. Every time you react predictably, you reinforce their strategy. But what happens when the machine suddenly stops working? When you withdraw your automatic responses, their entire system glitches. That colleague who always baits you into debates sits confused when their provocations meet silence. The relative who thrives on drama finds no audience for their latest crisis. Behavioral studies show this reaction withdrawal forces manipulators into unfamiliar territory. They must either confront their own emptiness or seek easier targets elsewhere. Consider how manipulation functions in daily life. Someone makes a passive-aggressive comment, expecting you to either defend yourself or seek their approval. When you do neither, their script falls apart. Research reveals that manipulators often escalate their tactics initially when met with silence. Attacks become more frequent, accusations more dramatic. This isn't because you've done something wrong, but because their usual methods have failed. One study tracking workplace dynamics found that employees who stopped engaging with toxic colleagues saw a 40% reduction in manipulative behavior within 3 weeks. The manipulators either adapted or moved on. The power shift happens in the silence between actions. That moment when your coworker drops their usual criticism and you simply continue working. When your parent makes a guilt-tripping remark and you change the subject. These aren't dramatic confrontations. They're subtle withdrawals of energy that dismantle old patterns. Manipulators rely on the predictability of your reactions, like navigators relying on stars. Remove those fixed points, and they drift. University of Amsterdam psychologists observed that relationship manipulators often abandon their tactics entirely when faced with consistent non-reaction, not because they've had a change of heart, but because the effort-reward ratio no longer favors them. Your silence acts as an X-ray, revealing the flimsiness of their control. The person who always demanded immediate responses now waits hours for a reply. The friend who traded favors for attention finds their transactions declining. What feels like tension is actually the sound of unhealthy dynamics collapsing under their own weight. Stanford researchers studying communication patterns found that simply delaying responses to manipulative messages by 30 minutes reduced emotional coercion by 62%. The manipulator's urgency always fades when it's not mirrored by your reaction speed. This rebellion doesn't require loud confrontations. In fact, overt resistance often feeds the manipulator's narrative. Strategic silence works because it provides no foothold for escalation. When you stop justifying, explaining, or reacting on cue, the manipulator faces something far more unsettling than anger. Relevance. Their tools become useless when you refuse to play the game. A Cambridge study on social dynamics confirmed that manipulators typically disengage from non-reactive targets within 2 to 3 interactions, not out of respect, but because the energy expenditure no longer justifies the diminishing returns. The real Transformation occurs when you witness their confusion firsthand. That moment when the person who always controlled conversations through interruptions finds themselves talking to empty air. When the drama seeker stories no longer elicit the gasps or reassurances they crave. Your withdrawal holds up a mirror to their behavior, one they often can't bear to look at for long. Clinical psychologists note this phase as critical. The manipulator either confronts their patterns or exits the relationship entirely. Either outcome creates space for healthier connections.